Since the Bill of Rights was finalized in 1791, the Second Amendment has been under questioning and examination by the Supreme Court. Are gun control laws a violation of the Second Amendment, and do all citizens have the right to keep and bear arms, or does the amendment only apply to a government-regulated group? Should gun control laws even exist?
Gun control laws keep guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens. If you're going to ignore the law, you're going to own a gun.
Maybe we should restrict the purchase of guns, and maybe we should restrict the sale of bullets. But the real problem is the wrong people's got a hold of these guns. They get them illegally.
And what has really concerned me is that the press has very much kept out of the news the numerous times every single month in this country a gun in either police hands or private hands has stopped a crime.
For several years, the ACLU position has been on the well-regulated militia side of the coin. As you read the Second Amendment, it establishes the idea that we should have a militia, and because we should have a well-regulated militia, then we should have the rights of citizens to keep and bear arms. So the well-regulated militia part of it seems to suggest that the state, it's the state, not the federal government, but the state would be able to regulate firearms.
Certainly even the hunters in this world don't need assault weapons, or if they do, they're not very good hunters. And we don't need handguns. Handguns kill more people in this society than any other country in the world. And it's just too easy to use. So I think those weapons should be banned.
The Second Amendment says that a citizen is entitled to use a weapon, possess a weapon. Someone will say, well, yeah, but that's within a well-regulated militia. Well, what is the definition of a well-regulated militia? We just go back to the early days of the country when, again, personal responsibility, when a person was in charge of the care for his family, every home had a gun.
But sometimes I wonder about the kinds of weapons that are available to people, like, assault rifles, and what possible good can an assault rifle do for a citizen other than really cause harm to a great many people?
I don't think we can deny the people the right to own guns, because under the Second Amendment, that's what it's for, to guarantee the right for ownership.
I think we need regulation for gun control. I think we do need some gun control laws because of, case in point, members of my own family, not immediate family, several years ago experienced someone shooting through their house, not deliberately, it was accidental. But it was an underage person holding a firearm. Now, there has to be some repercussion for behavior like that.
If anybody should ever come to power in our government, and rise to the top, the American people need to be armed.
The Second Amendment, I believe it is related to guns, was written specifically in a historical time when it was basically a militia, the state militia, to protect against an imperial government. And it was never individual rights that were protected there, but rather states' rights.
No, that's all citizens. I think that applies to all citizens. When the Second Amendment was written, we had a totally different country. And if we would check now, every male, I forget what the age group is, but every male in Indiana, and well, females too, are considered to be in the militia if needed.
And Judge Silverman said that D.C. might be able to justify. He didn't say necessarily that it would be, but might be able to justify such things as concealed carry restrictions, for example, registration requirements, a requirement for proficiency testing, a law that keeps guns away from felons, guns away from minors. So reasonable restrictions are not incompatible with the reading of the Second Amendment that says it secures an individual right to keep and bear arms. It's quite clear that some persons, for example, felons, minors, and incompetents, and some weapons, for example, shoulder-launched missiles, and some uses, for example, murder, can be foreclosed by regulation, even with a rigorous reading of the Second Amendment.
But I'm talking about in a day when a Hitler, an Adolf Hitler, comes to power and he takes everybody's guns away, and then he steps in, and this is exactly what happened in 1934. He got to be a chancellor, right chancellor, and he took everybody's guns away, and then of course by 39 he was starting World War II and committing genocide, and at that point there was no stopping.
Every other, Canada, Europe, all these other countries have done this, and they're not all imprisoned by their governments. They're not all enslaved like the NRA would want you to believe will happen if we pass these laws. That's really just bogus. The main reason for the gun industry is money, and I think we need to teach our children and grandchildren and the generations to come that there's a better way. We can live together on this planet. We don't have to live in fear.
Still are going to see the violent crimes such as, murder, robbery, because people committing these crimes are going to find ways to get guns. So we're never ever going to be able to completely decrease or get rid of that crime rate, but since those bans have been inactive, I do believe we've seen a decrease in the numbers.
I think that anyone who does not have a felony conviction, I agree with that. Anyone who does not have a felony conviction is 18 years or older should be able to bear an arm. But again, they should have to go through the criminal checks, background, and there should be a waiting list. But again, anytime you impose something like that, there's going to be ways around it. People are still going to be able to get guns and commit crimes, regardless of how strict of a policy we have.
There are many folks who have suggested that it's been pretty awful, that there are too many firearms, that they're too available to all kinds of people, and that there have not been sufficient regulation, so that people who are perhaps mentally unstable have acquired firearms.
We export more than, our biggest export in this country is violence. We're the biggest arms supplier to every area, third world country in the world. No other country comes close. And we need to go after those people, those corporations that are making money off killing. And I think if we did that, we could significantly change not only our society, but the rest of the world as well.
Primarily, if you look at the Columbine shooting and so forth, where did the kids get the guns at? And a lot of these crimes that are being committed by the younger people, they're getting their guns from parents. And I think that in order to decrease that, the parents that have the guns need to be accountable for those weapons. They need to make sure that they're locked up, that their children don't have access to the keys and they are not available to the kids.
I'm a licensed personal protection carrier. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I do all the right things. I have recreational shooting sports that I enjoy, and that's everything we do. I'm a counselor in the NRA. I teach and can certify instructors in rifle, pistol, shotgun, range safety officers, do all these things, all in the name of safety with firearms. That's what it's about.
People, going back to the Second Amendment, you have the right to bear arms. People who legally go and get the permits and follow the law and abide by it, they're the ones that I don't have issues with.
I think that if the person intends to do harm, it would be done in just another manner. There would be gas explosions. There would be all kinds of things. If they wanted to do harm to people, then they would do harm. If they wanted to get the notoriety of doing a big crime, then they would still find another way. I don't think banning firearms is the answer.